WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu, and I'm a licensed certified public accountant in the state of Illinois. I'm the owner and practitioner of my firm, Badu Tax Services, and we specialize in tax preparation, tax planning, and tax representation for individuals and businesses. So today's topic, we'll be talking about essentially the importance of saving for retirement and making sure you have a better financial future. I know a lot of tax refunds are coming out, so it's always best to put that money to good use. So we'll be talking about some different strategies that you can utilize in order to save for retirement and ultimately help you maintain a better financial future. Before we do that, I would like to kick it off with a market report, which is as of the close of March 2nd, 2018, so as of last Friday. So really what happened is essentially trade wars pretty much spooked many investors toward the week's end as President Trump announced plans to implement a tariff of 25% on steel imports and 10% on aluminum imports. While no one can say for certain whether such tariffs will actually materialize, Trump's pronouncements were enough to send stocks tumbling on Thursday and Friday morning, only to recover somewhat by market's close Friday afternoon. Unfortunately, the recovery wasn't enough to stave off weekly losses on all the indexes tracked, which essentially was led by the Dow Jones, which closed the week down more than 3%. Year to date, only the NASDAQ and S&P 500 are actually in positive territory. So ultimately, the price of crude oil went down from $63.57 per barrel to $61.45 per barrel. And then the price of COMEX gold actually went down as well from $1330.7 per ounce to $1323.70 per ounce. Overall in the market, we've been set back quite a lot since we started off the year really hot. Dow Jones is down negative 0.73%. NASDAQ is up. So if you own tech stocks, you're still doing pretty good. NASDAQ is up 5.13%. S&P up 0.66%. Global Dow is down 0.64%. Russell 2000 down 0.15%. And 10-year treasuries are currently at 2.86%. So we took a minor setback, but usually minor setbacks lead to major comebacks. So I would say that's nothing to be too concerned about, the fact that the market is taking a little bit of a hit right now. But if you do own tech stocks, you're probably doing well so far this year. So just something to consider at least. Now, to get into the topic of retirement, this is one of my favorite segments. So this is one of my favorite topics out there. So it's very important to save for retirement, not just because of the fact that you'll have money in the future, but the thing I love about retirement accounts is that they're protected. If anybody tries to sue you, if anybody tries to come after you, they don't get anything really in your retirement account. That's why I love it so much. Most of my investing is done through retirement accounts because it's untouchable. If somebody was to try to sue me, ultimately they would essentially not get much. So retirement accounts are bankruptcy protected usually, meaning that if you were to declare bankruptcy, if somebody was to sue you, if somebody was to gain a judgment upon you, they would not be able to get a hold of your retirement assets because they are protected by certain laws and things like that. So I'm a huge fan of retirement accounts. I promote it a lot. I believe that you should be investing first and foremost through retirement accounts before you get into any other accounts. So if you're looking to buy stocks, if you're looking to do investing, one of the first things that you want to do is to open up a retirement account, perhaps a Roth IRA, through a site such as TD Ameritrade, and do your investing through there because your money is protected, and first and foremost, it grows tax-free. So that's a little background on retirement accounts in general. The majority of the U.S. population, unfortunately, isn't financially prepared for retirement. I would say probably about 90% of people, it's not really, pensions aren't really prevalent nowadays, so we can't really rely on pensions too much. And it's never early to save for retirement. It's really never too early I mean, retirement is one of those things that it's just never too early to save for. So that's something to keep in mind. And then when you should start saving, so you should start saving as soon as possible, really. You know, there's really no too young age to start saving for retirement. And what I recommend is you start small. You start very small, $5 a day, $100 a week or something like that. Start small, and then eventually, gradually get to the big stages. And then start saving in college. So I think that college is a great time to start saving for retirement, even though a lot of college students claim they're broke. This is a great place to store some of your money, is in a retirement account. And then increase your savings over time as you get older, as you make more money. You should be increasing the percentage or the amount of money that you put towards retirement because you can afford to do so. They say most people, as their income grows, so do their expenses, somehow, some way. Well, part of this expense can be your retirement account. So if your expenses are going to grow, you might as well grow your retirement accounts as well. And then take advantage of catch-up contributions if you're age 50 and over. So you get usually about $1,000 or so to quote-unquote catch up on your contributions. Or another fancy term for catching up is taking advantage or getting ahead of the retirement game. So if you're already caught up, then you can use this extra boost to get ahead of the game. So I love retirement accounts. I'm a huge proponent of them. Absolutely love them. So now let's talk about some different strategies that you can utilize. So the first strategy is an IRA, or individual retirement account. So one of the best retirement vehicles out there, hands down, is the IRA. There's a lot of control, very flexible. You get to do whatever it is you want in there. You can buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, tax liens, Super Bowl tickets. You can buy anything you want with an individual retirement account. That's why I really love it. Now, if you want to buy some of these other spontaneous things outside of stocks and bonds and mutual funds, you do have to go to a self-directed IRA platform, such as a company called Equity Trust. So if you want to buy real estate with your IRA, it is very well possible to do so. Usually I would recommend that you set up an LLC, a limited liability company, and then you have your IRA be 100% owner of that limited liability company, and you essentially buy real estate. Really good strategy for tax liens, where you buy people's property taxes or outstanding unpaid property taxes, and after a certain period of time, you get to get a hold of the property, or you get paid interest. So either you win or you win. So the IRA is the new version of the 401k. It's better. It's more flexible. I am not a firm believer of the 401k. I love the IRA over the 401k, mainly because I like flexibility. I like to have control over my money. When I'm invested in a 401k, I don't have much control because I'm pretty much limited to mutual funds. However, if you are self-employed and you self-direct your own 401k and buy real estate, tax liens, and notes and things like that, then that's a more feasible option. But traditionally, 401ks are known to be with employers, high fees, not much control, and just not really the best option there is. I mean, it's good to have in general, especially take advantage of the match, which we'll talk about a little later on. But ultimately, I'm not a big proponent of the 401k. I like the IRA better than the 401k. Usually what I would say is contribute up to the maximum match of your employer. Usually it's about, let's say, 50% up to 3% or so. And then whatever excess, I usually recommend you save at least 10% of your income, gross income, towards retirement every year. So whatever the excess is, so let's say you're contributing 5% towards your 401k, then you should be doing another 5% at least towards the IRA. So IRAs are best suited for anyone, really. There is no set age. There is nothing. It's best suited for everyone. Extremely flexible and can be invested however way you choose to invest your money. Nobody has control over it but you. The two types of IRAs out there, there's traditional IRA and then there's a Roth IRA. So a traditional IRA, you have pre-tax contributions You have tax-deferred growth of earnings, meaning it's not tax-free, but you don't have to pay taxes on it now, so it's tax-deferred. However, when it comes time to take the money out, it is taxable, and it's subject to required minimum distributions at the age of 70 and a half. This is why I'm not a big proponent of the traditional IRA. Although it is flexible, it is not that flexible because you have to pay taxes on it later on. So here's a better option, the Roth IRA. I love the Roth IRA. At first, when I was introduced to the Roth IRA, I really didn't understand it until I actually put numbers to paper. And it made such financial sense that all my money pretty much in my IRAs are towards the Roth now. And so with the Roth IRA, you have after-tax contributions, meaning you don't get the write-off up front. Perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. However, you get tax-free growth of earnings, meaning you don't have to pay taxes on the earnings as long as you don't withdraw early. And it's non-taxable withdrawals, which I really love. I really love the fact that Roth IRAs essentially don't have, if I put money in and I take it out, I don't get taxed at all. And then also principal and Roth can be withdrawn without penalty at any given time, although not recommended. And let's say you're one of those who wants to retire early. You can actually do what's known as a 72T, Section 72T election, where you take distributions on your IRAs over a set period of time, over a 5-year period or so. A set amount of money you can take out penalty-free and sometimes tax-free out of your IRA account as long as you make that election on your tax return. So that's a really nice benefit. I love the IRAs. I'm a huge proponent of them. One of the first things that I do every year is I max out my Roth IRA account every single year at the beginning of every single year. One of the very first things that I do is I put my money towards the Roth IRA. And you can always take out money early for emergencies, although, of course, not recommended, or significant medical expenses, buying your first home up to $10,000, or paying for school. Let's say you went back to school, got an MBA or something. You can actually utilize your Roth IRA or traditional IRA money. The maximum you can contribute across all IRA accounts in a year is $5,500. That has never changed. The Roth is typically better than traditional. As I was saying before, I love the Roth IRA versus the traditional IRA. And you can start withdrawing money for any reason without penalty at the age of 59 and a half. Ultimately, when you have a Roth IRA, you have to utilize a certain strategy, though. And then try to be diversified, I guess, is my thing. I mean, now most of my money, I would say all my IRA money is in Roth. But I also have some traditional and like health savings accounts and things like that. And we'll talk about the HSA later, but it's actually the best account that I have on this list right here. There is no better retirement account than a health savings account. And I'll explain why later. Next on the list, well, actually, let's go back to the IRA. So you have until April 17th, as of the last day to file taxes, to contribute up to $5,500 and for your contributions to count towards last year. So if you're strategizing, and this is a strategy I use a lot for my clients. Let's say somebody comes to me in April and I see the opportunity for them to save extra money on their taxes, known as the Saver's Credit. We utilize the IRA, we contribute to it, and then we get the write-off. The nice thing is you can get the write-off first and then contribute, since you have until April 17th to do so. Next on the list is the 401k. Once again, I am not a big fan of the 401k. However, it is a very important strategy or tool to use. It is the old school way of saving for retirement. Although the 401k is fairly new, it is still the old school way. The IRA is the new school way. I like new school things. It's still a great option. However, it lacks flexibility and typically only limited to mutual funds, which I'm definitely not a big fan of. I actually hate mutual funds, but that's just my personal opinion. So with a 401k, and this is very important, a lot of people misunderstand this fact. With a 401k, you have a traditional 401k, and then you have a Roth 401k. A lot of people come to me saying, "Oh, I have a Roth IRA." Little that they know that that's a Roth 401k. There's a difference between a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k. A Roth IRA is set up outside of your employer. It has nothing to do with your employer. A Roth 401k has to do with your employer. And you can still get your match if you do a Roth 401k. You don't have to always contribute pre-tax like they do. I feel like this should be illegal, actually, how they start off people pre-tax. I believe that they should switch that and make everybody contribute after tax as a default. Just because if you're in a lower tax bracket, it makes no sense to contribute to a traditional 401k. If you're in a higher tax bracket, let's say you make $150,000 a year, then it probably makes sense to go traditional because the tax savings would probably be worth it. And really part of it is speculation. But at the same time, with the Roth 401k, your money grows tax-free. Two of my favorite words in life. I love it when money grows tax-free. My personal goal, it is my personal goal to live a tax-free retirement, which I'm on track to achieve as we speak. So with traditional versus Roth, IRS is not so friendly when it comes to early 401k withdrawals. And I've seen this a lot sometimes when I sit down with a client, they pull out of their 401k early for whatever reason. Now, did you know that an early withdrawal of a 401k leads to about 40% in taxes? They advertise it to be 10%, which is, of course, only the penalty. But in reality, it's more like 40% if you consider the penalty plus the federal income taxes plus the state income taxes. So it can be a really, really steep penalty for pulling from your retirement. So I always tell people, unless you're laying on your deathbed or you have a significant emergency or you're looking to do an investment, you should never pull out of a 401k early, ever. And I mean never pull out of a 401k early. You're going to get hit with a very high tax rate for no reason. Sometimes it can even push you in a higher tax bracket, which makes no sense really financially. Now, if you're really struggling or if you have something going on, the first option you should look into is perhaps maybe like a payday loan or a short-term loan or maybe some lines of credit, some credit cards. Whatever you do, do not pull out early of a 401k. It is one of the worst financial mistakes that you can ever make in your life unless it is for an investment, something that's actually going to make you more money, or it's if it's a significant, and I mean significant emergency, a huge medical bill or something like that you absolutely must pay on and you cannot negotiate a payment plan, which you usually can do. So unless that it is something that is completely outside of your control, do not pull money early out of your 401k. So with 401ks are limited to about 18,000. It went up to 18,500 this year. If you're single, and then around, let's say 36,000 or so if you're married. And then, so you also have, so not only just the 401k, you also have the 403b, which is basically a 401k, but 403bs are more like for governments and nonprofit organizations or employers. Very similar, very, very tiny differences, but they're the same. They're the same things, really. And my advice is to contribute at the bare minimum, up to the maximum that your employer will match you. Bare minimum. Because if you don't do so, you're basically throwing money in a garbage can. It's like literally opening up a garbage can and tossing money in it, which I'm sure you don't want to do. But when you don't contribute up to the match, that's exactly what you're doing. If you're in a higher tax bracket, then contribute to the maximum allowed. Contribute to the traditional. Let's say you're making $300,000 a year, which some of my clients are at that level. I'd say only do traditional. Max it out, 18,000. Go out and max out your spouses, another 18,000 or so. Do not put that to waste because you would be hit heavy on a tax return if you did otherwise. And start contributing as soon as possible. Usually you have to wait 3 months when you're with that employer to be enrolled in their plan. So as soon as that 3 months is up, go ahead and please enroll in the plan. But don't delay. Get started with the IRA and then you go into the 401k. For my self-employed folks, we also have options. We have the solo 401k. We have the SEP IRA. We have the simple IRA. We have a lot of different options available to us. We actually are allowed to save more money in retirement than a traditional employee. We can stuff up to $54,000 to $55,000 in just the 401k or SEP IRA alone, and then we get another $5,000 or $11,000 if we're doing the IRA. And then if we have a spouse, we have a child or anything like that, we can stuff another $54,000 and another $54,000 into their accounts. Eventually, we might not have to pay taxes, at least now. So for self-employed folks, we still have options. We can save more for retirement actually than a traditional employee. And now to my favorite retirement account, which is the health savings account. Now, one thing to note, a health savings account is not a true retirement account. It's not labeled as a retirement account, but I treat it like a retirement account. The nice thing here is I don't have to wait until I'm age 59 and a half to start pulling from it. Although I never recommend pulling from it early. I treat an IRA, I treat an HSA just like I would do any other retirement account. Meaning I let the money sit, grow, and then eventually I take it out when I'm ready to retire. So a health savings account provides triple tax benefits. It is the number one quote-unquote retirement account there is. The reason why it has triple tax benefits, and let me explain what I mean. It has pre-tax contributions, meaning when you put money in, you get a tax write-off up front without no questions asked. No income limits, none of that phase-outs or any of that stuff. You can put money in, you can make up to $300 million a year, and you can put money into a health savings account and get the write-off up front. At the highest tax bracket of 37%, you would be saving a tremendous amount if you were at that income level. And then phase two is you get tax-free accumulation of earnings. So remember, with an IRA, it's either you pay taxes now or later. Or in some cases, you pay taxes never. That's utilizing very savvy strategies that are far beyond the scope of this presentation. But, however, there's tax-free accumulation of earnings. So just like I was saying with your IRA, it can buy real estate, it can buy notes, tax liens, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all of that stuff. An HSA can do the same thing. You can actually self-direct your health savings account. And then when it comes time to take the money out, guess what? It's non-taxable. You've effectively wiped out all taxes completely through this account. That's why I love the health savings account. So if you're not maxing out your health savings account every year, you're making a huge mistake, actually, because this account is better than that 401k you have. It's better than that IRA you have because it has triple tax benefits. And we all know that we're going to need medical expenses in the future when we're closer to retirement. So we absolutely have to take advantage of an account like this. And so it can be used for medical expenses now or later. Most people use it now. That's a huge mistake. That's a very big mistake because your money is growing tax-free. Why would you take out tax-free money when you can be using taxable money that's already taxed? You might as well use it since it's already being taxed versus money that's growing tax-free. It makes very little financial sense to utilize your HSA now. Because that money can be growing tax-free. And we know we'll need medical expenses in the future. Medicare might not be around 10 years from now or even 5 years from now or so. It might be around, but it might be significantly depleted by the time we get there. So this would be the Medicare supplement right here is the health savings account. So do not use your health savings account now. Save it for the future. And let's say you don't want to use it for medical expenses, not a problem. Go on a cruise. Do something with it. Just know you would just have to pay taxes if it's after the age of 59 or 65, actually. And there's no penalty after the age of 65. And if you do that before, you do get hit with a very steep 20% penalty. And you have to pay taxes on the distributions. So it is recommended that you utilize it for medical expenses. So to recap what the HSA is, essentially you put the money in, stuff it as much as possible. $34.50 a year, and ultimately let the money grow tax-free. Buy real estate. My HSA personally owns an LLC with my IRA, and they do real estate deals together. So ultimately, you can have your HSA as your investment partner or your investment strategist, doing deals together. And ultimately, when it comes time to retire, that's when you start pulling the money and using it for medical expenses. Remember, this money grows tax-free. There's no two better words in life than tax-free. And then, so it's a great way to save for retirement. Like I said before, it's not labeled as a retirement account, but I treat it just like a retirement account. Medical expenses are very high in retirement. It is the new Medicare. We don't rely on Medicare anymore. We rely on a health savings account. You can withdraw funds in retirement without penalty for non-medical, like I was saying. So it is an awesome account. Very awesome account. Another thing that I do at the beginning of every year is I maximize my health savings account, the 3450, at the beginning of every single year. That's what I do. I max it out, throw money in there, and then I invest it. And I buy real estate. I buy stocks. I buy bonds. I buy tax liens. I buy everything there is to buy. Investment related, of course. And then the next retirement strategy, this is not very well known, but this is a true retirement strategy, is a permanent life insurance policy. So there are 4 different permanent policies out there. There's a whole life, a universal life, a variable life, and then a variable universal life, which is life insurance on steroids. So with a whole life, ultimately, it is an account that has a cash value component, and it has a life component, protecting your life, and then there's an investment component. It tends to have lower returns than something like a universal life, but it is very stable. So if you want something very stable as a retirement supplement, you would want to utilize a whole life retirement or a whole life permanent policy plan. And then you have universal life. Universal life tends to grow a little faster than a whole life because it's a lot more skin in the game, and there are no guarantees other than you have a floor. So meaning if the market does negative 13%, you do 1%. And then you have a ceiling. If the market does 26%, you do about 13%. So I really like the protection it has just from the investment side, that I have slightly limited upside, but on a downside, more importantly, I have limited downside. That's one of the best investments you can have, is when you have limited downside. I prefer unlimited upside, but with this one, you have limited downside, limited upside. But the upside tends to be a little high, too. So it's just like the whole life, where you have your life component, and then you have the investment component. And you build up what's known as cash value over time. And then you can start pulling from that cash value by doing what's known as borrowing against the policy. Tax-free. Remember, the 2 best words in life, tax-free. So you can fund your child's education. You can fund your retirement. You can do what it actually does and pass away and let it go to your kids. So I really love the universal life, personally. I personally have a universal life, and I also have a whole life. And then you have variable life, which is basically a whole life, but there's a few differences. For example, you have sub-accounts. Your investment pool is known as sub-accounts. You still have some of the guarantees, like guaranteed premiums and things like that in a variable life. But variable, as it is in its name, you get to change it around a little bit. And then you have variable universal life, which is life insurance on steroids. I personally have one of these plans as well. So with variable universal life, if the market does 100%, you do 100% basically. But with some plans, if the market does negative 13%, you do 1%. So this plan is really, really good. It has unlimited upside but limited downside in some cases. Not all plans have the limited downside component. So variable universal life is a pretty good plan. However, it's not for everyone. It's more so if you're younger, you have a higher risk appetite. This is not best suited for everyone. Variable universal life, you have to be very careful with this one because it is life insurance on steroids. And so your account accumulates cash value or cash surrender value over time. It grows fairly rapidly after a few years or so. And you can borrow against the policy. And essentially, anytime you're borrowing against yourself, you pay no taxes on it. That's how you pull out the money, and that's how you can use this as a retirement supplement. So instead of pulling from your 401k or your IRA, you can be using something like this. And let's say you're using something like this for the first 5 years in retirement. You retire traditionally at 65, and then you have required minimum distribution starting at age 70 and a half. So you start pulling from your 401k at the age of 70. So this can be a nice supplemental account to your retirement plan. And usually when I talk about something, I'm usually involved in it as well. So I have, out of the 4 permanent policies that I mentioned, I have 3 of them: whole life, universal life, and then a variable universal life. And it's a great way to fund your child's education. So it's an excellent way, tax-free way, to fund a child's college expenses. You might also want to look into a 529 plan or something for the child, but a permanent life insurance policy isn't a bad idea at all either. And so with this, it's very good for high-income earners who need a tax-advantaged retirement account or account in general, because you get tax-free accumulation of wealth. You don't pay premiums after a certain age if your policy allows it. And then it's ultimately best to be diversified across, not only across different accounts, but also within different life insurance policies. So in reality, really to conclude, do something now that your future self would thank you for later. You must save for retirement. It's no longer recommended or anything like that. It is actually required now. Or you risk living in poverty, unfortunately. I personally don't want to rely on the government for funding and things. So I would much rather have all these different accounts so that I can tap into. Something's doing bad, I can tap here. I can tap there. I can tap there. That way you feel comfortable. You can sleep better at night. So, and as we know, our health tends to deteriorate when we are in retirement. So we can't take that pressure. So we need to have these things so that we can be comfortable. And I'll leave you with this. The last note here is the reason why older people are working at Walmart mainly is not because they want to, but usually because they have to. So that's really it for the presentation. Definitely thank you all for tuning in to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu once again, and definitely look forward to continuously delivering you all some content and talking about these different topics, different strategies. It's not over yet. It ends next month. So if you need a tax professional, I'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you.